900 AM, the talk of the Palm Beaches.
Are you retired or nearing retirement? By now you probably realize that nest egg you had set up is not nearly enough to carry you through retirement. Here's some good news. Fortitude Investment Group can help. They specialize in retirement planning, estate planning, income taxation, and investment strategies for people who are retired or approaching retirement looking for ways to maximize their income. It's not too late to get on the right track to financial freedom. Mark Linsky has been a financial advisor since 1986 and carries a certified financial planner's designation and all the tips, tools, and secrets you need to find financial stability. They also focus on 401k plans and passive real estate solutions. So whether you're retired, nearing retirement, or just want to stay ahead of the game, contact Mark Linsky at Fortitude Investment Group today to set up your consultation. 561-328-7391. That's 561-328-7391. Fortitude Investment Group, US 1 and Donald Ross, right in Juno Beach.
Fortitude Investment Group is an independent firm with securities offered through Summit Brokerage Services, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through Summit Financial Group, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Shalom, friends, and welcome to The Schmooze with your hosts, Rabbi David Vigler and Mitchell Zachary.
Separating the facts from the fiction and the Bubba Mises from the bottom line. Good morning and welcome to The Schmooze in 2016. Mitch, do you realize how many years we've been in the air? We started.
When did you start? I'm here 4 years. I know my history.
Schmooze Radio is certainly the oldest station here, the oldest show on this radio station. But it's let me think a second. We started in 2009. 2009. This means we're entering.
When in 2009?
In August.
In August.
So what does that mean? We're in our seventh year.
About 6.5 years.
Yeah, so we're starting our seventh year. Well, on the calendar.
In the seventh year.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
in
great.
my fifth year.
We need a sabbatical now. So here we are. You're listening to The Schmooze. We're separating the facts from the fiction and the Bubba Mises from the bottom line. It's the Rabbi and the CEO. Mitch Zachary is the CEO with the earthly perspective. I'm Rabbi David Vigler of Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens, trying to bring in the Torah perspective. Together, we bring heaven and earth, body and soul as one, to give you the Jewish views on the news and on the Torah portion with what's going on in the life that's relevant to the Jewish people.
Rabbi, listen, I want to wish all listeners a Happy New Year. Rabbi,
New Year,
to you and your family.
Happy New Year, three months ago.
So can I ask you a personal question?
Okay, go ahead.
Little personal?
Okay.
Were you staying up till midnight with your groggers and
No,
like
I
a
wasn't.
sperm? No,
On
Happy
an
New
early
Year.
night. You know, I saw an interesting picture on Facebook. In your teens, New Year's is sodas. You know, sodas, Coca-Cola. You know, then in college, New Year's is
Beer.
vodkas and beers.
Yeah.
Then in your 20s, it's champagne glasses. In your 30s, it's early night to bed.
Yeah, and in your 50s, like me, it's like, I hope I could stay up. You know,
it's so funny. Did I tell you we were one year in Boca Raton in a coach restaurant, and we were there a little late, as my wife and I are typically in the restaurants, and we noticed a group of maybe 20 elderly people march in at about 10:30 p.m. They look like they just woke up from an 8-hour nap. And then we realized what happened here. These guys had gone to sleep at 2 p.m. so that they could stay up for midnight. It was so funny. It was such a Boca moment.
Well, you know, for me, it's always special. I have my family there. It's always special. And, you know, then we all call each other. It's really very nice. And so, but I'm always
At midnight,
curious.
you call each other?
Around midnight, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because we're all up, you know, my sisters. And I was just wondering, though, because from your first comment today, your first comment was, what New Year? New Year was 3 months ago. But it is a new calendar year.
Yeah.
But to you, that doesn't really signify
You know, I'll tell you a
anything.
quick story. You might like this one. The one year that the Rebbe, Rabbi Schneerson, the Chabad Lubavitch Rebbe, was in his office in 770 Eastern Parkway in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. And it was midnight. He was working. There was one of his secretaries was in the office. And at midnight, the Rebbe said to one of the secretaries who was there in the office, he said, Happy New Year. The secretary was shocked. He couldn't believe what he thought his ears were deceiving him. What? The Rebbe just said Happy New Year. And the Rebbe smiled and said that in the book of Psalms by King David, it says, Hashem yispar b'chsav amim, that God counts by the count of nations. That God counts by the count of nations, which means that even though we have our own Jewish calendar, Hashem, God Almighty, is also subscribing to the calendar of the Gentiles as well. And that was an interesting story about how the Rebbe also wished Happy New Year to his secretary, according to the non-Jewish calendar. But we've got a very, very exciting guest this morning in the studio, and we're really delighted to introduce him to you right here on the Shmooze Radio, where we're separating the facts from the fiction and the Baba Mises from the bottom line. Our guest this morning on the radio, on the Shmooze here in South Florida and in Long Island, is our Scholar in Residence event of the season. This man here today travels every week, just about, of the calendar. Maybe he'll fill us in around the globe. He goes not just in North America, South America. He's in Australia, Europe, Asia, every single place in the world where there are Jewish people.
And Brooklyn.
And Brooklyn, New York. Yes, that's right, in Brooklyn, New York. He's actually from St. Paul, Minnesota, where he is one of the most highly sought after authors, lecturers, movie producers, thinkers, and in my mind, more than any of the above, philosophers in the Jewish world today. He's truly a deep thinker and a brilliant orator in expressing those thoughts and taking the beautiful teachings of Kabbalah, of Judaism, of mysticism, and being really an archaeologist in terms of excavating them out of the Torah, just like Michelangelo, who takes the image, the beautiful sculpture outside of the stone. He takes it out as it's trapped in the stone, and he presents it as a beautiful image for all to see. Our guest this morning in the studio, ladies and gentlemen, friends, it's Rabbi Manis Friedman from St. Paul, Minnesota. Good morning, Rabbi Friedman. Shalom and welcome.
Good morning, shalom. I was never described as an archaeologist before.
Welcome to the Shmooze. This is a totally new perspective on reality.
I play in a sandbox, but...
I've got other terms too, if you'd like to hear, but this is just for starters. Rabbi Manis Friedman is the author of many books, one of which is a big bestseller. It's called Why Don't, what's it called again?
Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore?
Why Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore? I'm sorry, I mixed it up with the title of a movie you made. Why Doesn't Anyone Blush Anymore? I believe it sold hundreds of thousands of copies. We have a couple at the Chabad. And Rabbi Manis Friedman is actually our guest, our scholar in residence at the Chabad, middle of January 15th and 16th, for a very beautiful, intimate, and personal scholar in residence visit, as he talks about intimacy and relationships, as it is highlighted in the movie that he just produced. It's not even been released. It's being released to the public in 2 weeks' time on January 13th. We at the Chabad are having a season premiere preview on January 9th, which is this Saturday night, where the movie is going to be played at the Chabad for season preview. It's already won awards at the Houston Film Festival as Best Documentary. It's called The Lost Key to Intimacy. Rabbi Friedman, welcome to the Shmooze. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about the movie.
Well, let's talk about the movie. There is a crisis, a serious crisis in intimacy in our country. Too many people are complaining that even though they have good relationships, good marriages, it feels like something's missing, and that something is intimacy.
Wow.
And what that means is that in a quiet moment, despite their good relationships and social life, they feel like ultimately they're living alone.
Rabbi Friedman, isn't intimacy...
Wait, I'm sorry if I
Go
just
ahead,
interrupt. That is such an interesting comment. Married couples feel like they're living alone. Can you go into a little more detail what you mean by that?
Well, I mean, the biggest virtue of marriage is that once you connect on a serious, substantial level, you never feel alone again. And if that doesn't happen, then we're missing something really fundamental in what we call marriage. I mean, there are many relationships, some better, some deeper, but marriage is supposed to be the ultimate. And what that means is that the bond is so real that no matter where you are in the world, even if you're separated by an ocean, you don't feel alone. You can feel lonely, because you'd rather be together than apart. But you never feel alone, because you're not alone in the world. You're connected. You're joined at the hip. There is somebody who shares your life, not just visits or participates, but literally you've become one.
So you're saying that it's possible in a marriage to be, not to be alone, but still to be lonely?
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah, but
If
that
you're
could
separated,
that's
you should
different 'cause
feel-
you're separated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
By distance.
Well, absence makes the heart grow
Yeah.
fonder. But see, biblically, let's back up a little bit. What is the genuine need of man and woman for each other? The answer can't be sex, because you don't need a man and a woman. What is unique about a man-woman connection, relationship with them? So as far as the Torah is concerned, Adam, the first human being, was created male and female. I know that sounds weird, and don't try to visualize
Mitch,
it.
I think we spoke about this.
Well,
Didn't
this
we
has
spoke
been a
about this on
hot
the air?
topic
Hot.
for us. That's
Yes.
been a very hot topic for us.
I think we spoke about
Because
this on the air.
it starts, the Torah starts within the beginning, but when he creates man, he goes, he created man and woman, but he didn't. But then he creates Eve later.
Right, because I think we spoke about this, about how she wasn't taken from the rib, she was taken from his side,
Yeah.
which is a topic we've discussed before in the Medrash.
So Adam, whatever that was male and female. However, whatever, let's not even go there. Then God separates them, and they become two people. Immediately after separating them, God says to them, therefore you should get married and become one flesh. Wait, we just were one flesh. And here you separate us, now you tell us to become one?
Right, that's a pretty good point.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that this oneness is so fantastically good that God wants us to achieve it on our own efforts so that we get credit for it. So why not create us separate in the first place? If we were created separate, we would never be able to become one. Because two separate beings do not become one.
Wow.
So God has to create us as one because that's our true nature.
In other words, everything returns to its natural state of being. Having originated as one, it means we're able to recreate that original state of being.
Oh, I've got so many questions for you.
See, but usually we assume that having been created as one was an incomplete stage, or maybe even a little bit of an oversight. And then God corrected it and made us normal by separating us. But that's not correct. The way God created Adam, that was the ideal. The separation, like all separation, is unholy, undesirable. Separation is not good. Oneness is good in Yiddishkeit. So the separation is artificial. Therefore, if you can get rid of whatever it is that is separating you, then you're naturally one. So what does a man and a woman need from each other?
I think
Oneness.
most of the world thinks the answer to that is sex.
Yes, and it's
I think that's what everybody really thinks.
that's why we're confused.
Because sex just doesn't do it, you're saying.
And
Well,
you know-
any man and
that's
woman
not
can have
unique,
sex.
and it's not unique to a man and a woman,
Right.
Oh my God.
right? So what really does a woman need from a man? I mean, aside from the practical support and security, whatever, oneness, to become whole. What does a man need from a woman? To be complete, to be whole, to be a complete human being, you have to be male and female. But they have to become one, not just living side by side. They haven't achieved the goal.
If you've just tuned in, you're listening to The Schmooze, where we're separating the facts from the fiction and the Bubba Mises from the bottom line. It's The Schmooze with the Rabbi and the CEO. Mitch Zachary's the CEO. I'm Rabbi David Vigler of Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens, where you'll find traditional Jewish values for contemporary Jews just like you. Learn about us online at www.jewishgardens.com. That's www.jewishgardens.com, where we've got a fascinating presentation coming this month with our guest in the studio this morning. It's Rabbi Friedman, international lecturer, author, speaker, philosopher, and movie producer, amongst other many accolades. His topic this morning with which he's going to be expanding on our movie this Saturday night, The Lost Key to Intimacy, as well as on our Shabbaton, the Scholar in Residence event on January 15th and 16th. All that information is at jewishgardens.com. The topic upon which he is talking this morning, and upon which we're going to expand in the next few weeks, is something which is, whose silence is deafening in celebrity media, in the newspapers, on the internet, and that is something which is so incredibly essential to human relationships, but whose silence is deafening, and that is not sex, but intimacy. We have absolutely no idea what intimacy really is. We simply dismiss it as sexuality, when in reality, I think it's shocking, the revelation that you're making this morning, that sex and intimacy really have nothing to do one with another.
Worlds apart. Worlds apart.
Wow, I think I've got to hear more about this intimacy thing.
Well, yeah, if you don't mind, my first question for you is, and it's brilliant what you're saying, and of course, thank God I'm married 30 years, and I like to think that we've created that oneness. But how do two people know? First of all, I guess, could any male and female, when you talk about the beginning with Adam being both and then being separated and then trying to find his way. But, obviously in today's world, oh, my God, there's so many choices. Kids today or younger people today, they go they play with their phone back and forth. Oh, yeah, that one. Okay, that'll be, based on one picture of a person.
It's loveless.
Totally loveless. So in today's world, how do you ever know if two people can be that one, if they can mold together like that?
There's so much to talk about. You're going to have to come to the program. First thing, you do not get married out of love.
Okay. Now that's
shocking
big.
Already.
Yeah, that's big. Yeah.
Right. You do not marry for love.
Do you believe in love?
I like it. I don't know if I worship it, and we shouldn't worship it. You see, that's part of the problem.
Is love not intimacy either?
Well, America worships love.
Yes.
Right, this is true. Yeah.
We'll kill for it, we'll die for it, we'll die from it. But it's everything, and of course that's not right. Love can't carry a relationship. Love enhances a relationship. So, ask the average teenager, is love the most important thing in life? Oh, yes. No, it's not.
They have no idea what love is.
But it's not. The real love is not the most important thing. When you have someone who is important to you, you should love him. Love doesn't make someone important. Look at how arrogant this is. If I love you, you become the most important person in the world. When I stop loving you, you're garbage.
Wow.
That is so arrogant. What have I got, the Midas touch? If I love you, you're the king. If I don't love you, you're nothing. That is so, narcissistic, whatever. I don't know what to call it even. So you don't marry for love. If you really need love, go home to your mother.
She's the only one that will always unconditionally love you.
Right. The first thing is, if you're going to get married, do you love the idea of marriage? Before you pick who you're going to marry.
Right. It shouldn't be about the person. It should be about the
marriage. Should
the
be
concept.
About marriage. Like, I love you.
You mean marriage should be about commitment?
Whoa. It shouldn't be about love, right? Okay. So, I love you, you love me, let's get married. That doesn't make any sense. None. You love each other, fine. How do you come to the conclusion that you should get married because you love each other? It's ridiculous.
I guess you love a lot of people.
Hopefully. But it makes as much sense as saying, I love you. Well, I love you. Oh, in that case, we should live in Cleveland. It makes as much sense. Who said anything about Cleveland? I said I love you. Okay, so let's get married. Unless you love marriage, don't get married.
That's a great idea. I love that thought.
So, like every 9
because a lot of people feel obligated because they do love somebody.
If that makes a marriage.
Right, so they love somebody, they have a sexual relationship, and this is the real world.
Right.
They have a sexual relationship, and then they're like, well,
Might
you
as
know,
well.
we probably should.
It's the right thing to
It's
do.
the right thing to do, you know.
So I guess if the relationship is built on a false premise, God only knows where that's going to lead you to if the foundation is shaky.
Just very logically, a man says to a woman, you know, I was really never the marriage type. I don't know if I'm excited about marriage. But now that I've met you, you are so fantastic. I want to marry you.
I want to wake up every day with you.
Don't do it. Don't do it. First of all, you're not that fantastic.
It's just that honeymoon phase.
Right. It's going to wear off.
Let's get it past.
And then he's going to hold it against you.
Right.
You know, I never wanted to get married.
Right. You used to do this. You used to look like this, you know. Right.
So if you're not getting married for the sake of marriage, don't do it.
Wow,
you
what a
have to
concept.
believe in marriage. Otherwise, you love somebody? Fine. Love them. Gesundheit. But you get married for the sake of marriage.
Okay, so
Then who you marry, a little technicality.
so now, but in terms of marriage, right? So do you see a big difference between an actual legal marriage versus a relationship where a man and woman just live together?
Oh, for sure. If you don't want to be married, just want to live together, what are you protecting here? What is the benefit? You're going to pay the price.
We have a relationship.
Right, and you're going to pay the prices. Whatever price you pay for living with somebody, you're going to pay anyway, and you're not going to have the benefits of a real marriage.
I think it's so fascinating that you look around people and you look around marriages and you see people that are walking around like in a bit of a confused state of mind, not quite sure where their marriages really are. You know, they joke around with his friends and she with her friends, and they're not quite sure exactly where this is going or what exactly hit them. Because what turns out from this conversation is that there's a key here that's missing.
And what is that key? Two people connecting to each other. Sounds simple, right? If you're connecting to each other, it's to the exclusion of all things. So, for example, if they mutually love each other, and that's why they're married, are they married to each other or are they married to the love?
Married to each other or married to the love?
The love, married to each other or married to being in love?
What to the love they're getting, or so. If there is some,
I would say the latter is what most people are doing. They're married to the love. They like the feeling.
Yes.
They like how it makes me feel.
yes, and that's why if we fall out of love, it's over. The first time I heard this expression, coming out of yeshiva, completely insulated, the first time I heard a man say, "I'm getting divorced. I don't need this," and I was a little confused. You don't need what? I don't need this. So you're divorcing her because you don't need this? What is this? And if you don't like this, get rid of this. Why are you getting rid of her? He never connected to her. It was always this arrangement, that arrangement. So he had enough of this. He's going to try a little of that.
So how does a couple know when they're truly connected?
All right. So in the olden days, like 30 years ago, women would complain to their husbands. And it really is a dilemma. The wives would say to their husbands, everything's good, have no complaints, except that I don't know if I really have you. Are you really there for me? And the husband would say, what do you want? And she would say, nothing. He said, so what are you kvetching about? Well, I want to have you. Well, what do you want from me? Nothing. You're making me crazy. See, there isn't, here's a good slogan. Nothing you get from your wife should ever be more important than your wife. I mean, is that not? So what are the things you get?
But they have to be, obviously they weren't communicating properly.
They weren't even aware that that's what they're trying to do, because we get hung up on things, and love is a thing.
And things are very distracting. Those things in the relationship are very distracting. There's money, there's sex, there's
Love.
There's love, and there's also commitment. Even commitment is a thing, I think.
So let me one more punchline. No mother would ever say to her children, "You don't love me? That's okay. The neighbor has children. The neighbor's children love me." See, no mother would ever say that. Why? Because a mother is not trying to get love from her children.
It's unconditional.
That's that's so immature. You need love, and you're looking for it from a child.
Right.
She doesn't want love from her child. She wants her child's love. She's not looking for love. She's looking for her child. Wow. How many ways can I connect with my child?
It's good stuff.
If you love me, that's a connection. If you spend time with me, that's a connection. So it's not I need love.
So she doesn't want love. She doesn't want love. She wants her child.
Exactly. And the same should be true in a marriage. I don't need love from my wife. I need my wife's love. Why? Because I need love? No, because she's my wife.
Wow. If you've just tuned in, you're listening to The Schmooze with the Rabbi and the CEO. Mitch Zachary is the CEO. I'm Rabbi David Vigler of Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. And we're separating the facts from the fiction. And let me tell you, our guest this morning in the studio is separating
a lot of
facts from fiction when it comes to marriages, relationships, and the lost secret of our relationships when we think that it's all about love, when in reality it's all about something else entirely. We'd love to take your calls at 1-877-960-9960.
We're going to take one call, but then we have to do a break.
That's 1-877-960-9960. We'll take one call just before we go to the break. It's Mike from Palm Beach Gardens. Good morning, Mike, and welcome to the Schmooze.
Good morning, Rabbi. I've been listening to the broadcast, really fascinated and looking forward to attending the event on January 15th and 16th. But I've got a question, is that what I've heard so far is there's a discussion that says, well, we're looking for marriage. If we're in love, then we should or shouldn't get married. What is the definition of marriage? What exactly are we talking about when we say marriage then? If it's not because we're in love, if it's not because we're looking for love, if it's not because we want to be intimate or with somebody for the rest of our lives, what's marriage?
Well, if you want to be mystical about it, marriage...
Sure.
Okay. Sure. Marriage is a reunion of parts of the same soul that had gotten separated and are now reuniting. Any two people can make a union, and it can be a good union. But marriage is a reunion. And that's why we say soulmate, bashert, who you're destined to marry. It's not just any two people who like each other. There's got to be some vast eternal plan that unites two parts of the same soul, and they become one again because they are essentially one. And the same is true, as we were saying, about bodies. Male and female qualities are really one, and they should reunite. So a marriage means you have met your destined, your bashert, your soul mate, and you reunite. That bond is stronger than anything in the world and cannot be destroyed. It can't, no matter what kind of hardships you go through, that bond outlasts everything.
I have a question for you. Is there only one soulmate for one soul?
Not necessarily. One soul can divide into parts, many parts.
Wow.
So a second marriage is another part of the same soul. Every marriage is destined. There are no mistakes. You've never married the wrong person. And if it ends up in divorce, well, you're divorcing a part of your soul, which is why it feels like an amputation. If it was a mistake, then it wouldn't be so painful. Oops, sorry, wrong person, bye. No, it's not like that. So what is the definition of marriage? A reunion of two souls so that they are literally one. And that's the objective, to be one.
And you're saying, so anytime there's a marriage, because people go, oh, I married the wrong person. You're saying anytime there's a marriage, it could be the soulmate, it should be the soulmate, you have to make it work.
Yes, even if you marry your soulmate, you still have to be nice.
So you
Sorry.
could marry your soulmate and still get divorced.
Yeah, you can be nasty.
You've seen that.
And
Look, you can be nasty to your soulmate. You can be nasty to yourself. How many people destroy themselves?
commit suicide,
Well,
physically
short of-
or emotionally.
Yeah. So you can frustrate yourself. You can hate yourself. So you can hate the other part
So
of your soul.
you're actually saying, Rabbi Friedman, here that even if you do marry your soulmate, you're not assured of happiness unless you know what to be looking for in the relationship. If you're marrying for money, if you're marrying for love, if you're marrying for sex, then you're probably not going to last very long. Unless you're marrying for the right secret, the right thing. What that is, we're going to talk about right after the break. Thank you to our sponsors. We'll be right back right after this. Don't go away. Our special guest in the studio, Rabbi Manis Friedman, international philosopher, right after this.
Are you retired or nearing retirement? By now you probably realize that nest egg you had set up is not nearly enough to carry you through retirement. Here's some good news. Fortitude Investment Group can help. They specialize in retirement planning, estate planning, income taxation, and investment strategies for people who are retired or approaching retirement looking for ways to maximize their income. It's not too late to get on the right track to financial freedom. Mark Linsky has been a financial advisor since 1986 and carries a certified financial planner's designation and all the tips, tools, and secrets you need to find financial stability. They also focus on 401k plans and passive real estate solutions. So whether you're retired, nearing retirement, or just want to stay ahead of the game, contact Mark Linsky at Fortitude Investment Group today to set up your consultation. 561-328-7391. That's 561-328-7391. Fortitude Investment Group, US 1 and Donald Ross, right in Juno Beach.
Fortitude Investment Group is an independent firm with securities offered through Summit Brokerage Services, Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through Summit Financial Group, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Separating the facts from the fiction and the Bubba Mises from the bottom line. Good morning and welcome to the Schmooze with the Rabbi and the CEO. Mitch Zachary is the CEO. I'm Rabbi David Vigler of Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens, where you'll find traditional Jewish values for contemporary Jews just like you. Learn about us online at www.jewishgardens.com. That's www.jewishgardens.com, where you'll learn about the opportunities to hear, to see our special scholar in residence, who's this morning's live guest in the studio, coming to Palm Beach Gardens, middle of January, as well as this coming Saturday night with his award-winning film.
Yeah, I have a question for you. There's a common belief that everybody says when trying to explain why men and women fight or disagree or don't communicate. They say women are from Venus and men are from Mars. What do you think about that?
Absolutely true.
Go John Gray.
Yeah, look, here's an important thing. Men and women are from different planets and therefore cannot possibly get along. I think the experiment of the last 100 years has shown men and women don't get along.
The experiment of past 100, what is that?
I thought the last
The social-
5,000 years.
No. But the social experimentation of dating and that whole social scene has proven.
Oh, are you saying that the development of drugs, whatever? I mean, where sex is about pleasure and not about procreation.
Or do you mean kind of like marrying for love instead of commitment?
Right, marrying for love, marrying for relationships instead of
Or
marrying
just
for
the whole
practical reasons.
co-ed experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
Everything
you
is
say that's failed.
together.
You said that's failed. That's a
Yeah.
total disaster. Do you agree, Mitch?
Well, when 50% of all marriages end in divorce, that's pretty mediocre.
It's almost amazing
That's a
that the other
definition of
50% stay
mediocre.
married.
Before we even get to marriage, do men and women understand each other?
No.
We're still having the same problems.
You'd think we'd learn something.
Yeah, you think, right? It's very funny when a man and a woman tell me that they're in a relationship and they're trying to make it work. And it's not easy. So they're going for therapy. And I think that's really funny. A man and a woman don't get along. It means I don't really like you.
So separate. Divorce.
So we're going for therapy?
You're saying you should get divorced. Just separate.
They're not married.
They're not even married.
You never hear two men say, we're not getting along so well, so we're going for therapy. We don't get along means I don't like you. What is
Unfriended on Facebook. Done.
So I think the opposite is true. Where you see a man and a woman really getting along, they need therapy. Because that should not happen.
That's so funny.
That should not happen. Something's wrong. Right? So that's why God invented marriage. What happens when you get married is a magical transformation. The guy becomes a husband, and the woman becomes a wife. Now, men and women are better off without each other, without a doubt.
Okay.
But a husband and wife can't exist without each other. You can't be a husband without a wife. So something dramatic
what makes
changes.
A man into a husband and a woman into a wife?
That's such a good question. So when a couple are about to get married, that's what I ask them. What do you think is going to happen now? If you think you're going to remain a woman, you're going to remain a man, but you're going to be committed to each other forever, that's nonsense.
Then you're not married.
It's a silly commitment.
Right.
Don't make such commitments you can't keep. So here's a perfect example. A woman drags her husband to therapy. She's very unhappy because every time they go out, he's flirting with all the women. Right? So she goes to the therapist and she pours her heart out and she says, I can't take this.
It hurts my feelings.
It hurts. The therapist very nicely, gently explains to her. She has nothing to worry about. Her marriage is not on the rocks. He's not about to cheat on her. He still loves her. It's a man thing. When a guy is in front of a group of women, he likes to show off. Nothing to be worried about. So she goes home feeling foolish. But when she gets home and she thinks about it, she says, wait a minute.
She's angry.
Wait a minute. That was not a good answer. I know what men do. I was complaining about my husband. A husband needs to show off in front of other women? No, he doesn't. So that's exactly what the problem is. My husband still acts like a man, not like a husband. She's right. She's absolutely right. So really, what does change? But before we get to that, nobody wants to change. No woman wants to become a wife. There's no glamour in being a wife. When married women get together...
That's a very good point. There's no glamour in being a wife.
Yeah.
Or a husband.
Very interesting.
Or a husband. When married women get together for an evening, what do they call it?
Girls' night out?
A girls' night out.
Wives' night out. Never heard of that.
Never. Wives...
Just not attractive to anybody to be a wife.
Wives are desperate.
Oh, my gosh. Good one. Well said, Rabbi.
They never have fun. In fact, even women don't have fun. You got to go back to being a girl to have some fun.
Wow.
So
Good one.
it really is embarrassing to be a wife, and it's certainly embarrassing to be a husband. I mean, a husband is the biggest loser in our culture.
Wow.
So if you're not ready to become a husband, if you're not ready to become a wife, if that's not going to be your pride and joy to introduce yourself as a husband to somebody, a wife to somebody, then you're not ready to get married. What's happening is people get married, she remains a woman, he remains a man, and then they wonder why they're not getting along. Because men and women don't get along. That's nature. Nothing wrong with that. Become husband and wife. You become inseparable, not just get along.
I have a question for you. In the I'm learning the Torah from the rabbi. It's late in life that I'm learning the Torah from the rabbi. And
It could have been worse. It could have been,
could have been
80.
just before I died.
Yeah.
Okay, so for 4 years I've been learning. And as I learn, I read that in the Bible, men had many wives. Is that in our DNA?
No.
Why is it that it was okay in the Bible? Not okay. It was expected. It seems to me.
Although we find very few people who did have multiple wives.
That didn't always turn out very well, by the way.
Well, the purpose of many wives.
I find one is plenty, by the way. I don't know why anybody would more than one. One is plenty.
Back in the beginning of history, the objective was to have children. Children was everything. Be fruitful and multiply. So when you had many wives, as long as they were all pregnant, everybody was happy. See, Rachel and Leah, what was the problem?
Fertility.
One had children and one didn't. That's a problem. Because the whole objective was to fill the world, to populate the world, to have children.
Because the chance of survival of the kids was slim.
Or simply because the world needed population.
Right.
So everybody was happy as long as we were doing what we set out to do. So why have many wives? If you have many wives, one man can have 4 or 5 children a year. If a woman would have 4 husbands, she would still have only 1 child per year. So there's no benefit, no gain in that. About 1,000 years ago, something changed. The focus in a marriage was no longer on having children. It became more personal. Us, me and you. Now multiple marriages don't work. Because if the focus is on each other, 2, 3, it doesn't work.
Well,
So
even
now
in the
it's-
Bible, it didn't always work,
Yeah, but also because
especially for the women.
because of children. I mean, the infamous case of a marriage not working was about 1,000 years ago, where one of the sages had 2 wives and they were plotting, and one of them was out to kill him, and it became really nasty. And so the rabbi said, "It's not working anymore. Don't do this."
That was the ban on polygamy.
Yeah, and now polygamy is forbidden.
But that's from the rabbis, not from the Torah.
Right. So going back to being predestined who you marry. If you marry the person you're destined to marry.
Rabbi Friedman, I just want to interject one point over here. I want to say again, if you're listening to the shmooze, if you just tuned in, you're listening to the shmooze, but we're separating the facts from the fiction. The Baba Mice is from the bottom line, right here on the Talk of the Palm Beaches. It's 900 AM, South Florida, and as well as in Long Island on 103.9 FM. And in South Florida, 95.9 FM. It's the Rabbi and the CEO. Our guest this morning in the studio is Rabbi Manis Friedman, who's an international lecturer, scholar, author, philosopher, movie producer. He recently produced a movie called The Lost Key to Intimacy, which will be screening at the Chabad this Saturday night at... information you'll find at jewishgardens.com. That's www.jewishgardens.com. That's this Saturday night, 7:30 p.m. complimentary viewing of The Lost Key to Intimacy. And he will be our scholar in residence at the Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens on January 15th and 16th. We've got very limited seating available, so please make your reservations ASAP at jewishgardens.com. He's been our guest so far this morning in the studio. And all that we've spoken about, Rabbi Friedman, I just want to make sure that for the record, we've spoken about the problem. Thus far, we've spoken about what marriage is not, what relationships are not, and what makes them fail. But what we haven't yet discussed is what they are and what the key to a successful relationship really is. You said not to marry for extraneous circumstances or reasons or benefits, but to marry for an essence which you haven't really identified. You've called it intimacy. But I think that most people have absolutely no idea what intimacy really is. I think we'd like to think that we know what intimacy is. I think most people would dismiss intimacy as sex. I think that's what most people. Do you agree with that, Mitch?
Sure.
You know, Harry just had his wedding anniversary here yesterday. Of I'm allowed to say how many years? Is it 60 yet?
No.
55. But it's over 50, right?
It's 50.
So people think that if you're mazel tov, Harry. That from strength to strength, l'chaim. From strength to strength to you. People think that if you've married over a certain amount of years, then you certainly know what intimacy is. But it sounds like, from what Rabbi Friedman is saying, that the length of your marriage has probably got very little to do with your ability to find intimacy. Maybe it's just convenience. And I just wanted to... And my question really is, are we going to find out that answer on January 15th? Is that something that's going to come up in the movie? Or are we going to find out about it this morning?
Well, you want me to give away the secret or
No,
not?
save it for then.
Definitely not. I think you're giving
I just
away
wanted to
plenty.
set the record straight here. As long as you're identifying the problem, this is good. So the answer we'll be finding out on January 15th and 16th at the Chabad, at the Scholar in Residence event, and at the movie night, which is January 9th, this Saturday night. But I just wanted to clarify that where we stand.
Okay, but going back, I'm sure some people have this question. If you can divorce the person you're supposed to be married to, then of what value is the knowledge that you are marrying a soulmate. It makes no difference. The difference, of course, is that if you know you're marrying the person you're destined to marry, this is a match made in heaven, this was meant to be, then you try harder to make it work. You have reason to try harder. If there's a possibility that you simply made a mistake and married the wrong person, why would you keep trying when it's just a mistake? Get out.
If I could just ask you a question, a man may be torn when he's with a woman. Should I marry her? Should I not marry her? And how does somebody know if it's his soulmate?
Exactly. We don't know. How could we know? I don't even know my own soul. How can I know whether you're part of my soul? What we need to know before we get married is that we are attracted enough, comfortable enough with this other person that we're hoping that this is the one. If we actually get married, now you know she's the one. Because if she's not the one, you're not going to get married.
Wow.
Something will
always... That is so deep.
Something will
It sounds so
always come.
simple, but it's really so deep.
Well, the deepest things are the simplest, always. It's always like that.
The deepest things are the simplest. I love that.
So let me tell you. Let's not keep people in suspense. No matter how much we talk here, there's going to be plenty more to talk about at the event. And repetition isn't going to hurt either,
but
because
you
need to
simple.
hear this.
You said deep is simple, though.
Yeah. So you can hear it many times.
Could you just tell us a little bit? We only have a few more minutes anyway. Can you tell us a little bit about this movie that you've just produced?
Yeah. Took 7 years. I did it with a producer, filmmaker in Caracas, Venezuela. He himself found the difference between a secular approach to marriage and a sacred approach to marriage. And in his second marriage, he's benefiting, and he thought, I got to share this. And so we got together and we produced this documentary. What is the difference between sex and intimacy? Sex is a thing. You can have more, you can have less, it can be good, it can be bad.
Like
it's
money.
a thing.
Like money.
It's a little more basic than money, but it can be just as selfish, maybe even more selfish than money. So it's a thing. Anything belongs to the world of pornography. What is pornography? When you turn a person into a thing, right? Objectification. When you objectify a person, you reduce the person to body parts or to functions or to benefits or to something, right? The key to intimacy is not about anything. It's a non-thing. Like the Mishnah says, a relationship based on something will not last. A relationship based on nothing will last. Right?
Yeah.
So intimacy is not about anything. It's getting past all things and meeting each other, just him and her. Nothing between them. Nothing. Not love, not pleasure, not sex, not just the pleasure of each other. And here's the bottom line. Ask your grandmother, or your great-grandmother, maybe. What happens in the bedroom?
Oh, nobody's asking their grandparents. I'm sorry. None of them. No, come on. Who's going to ask their grandparents that question?
Somebody once asked their grandmother. Somebody once asked their great-grandmother, what goes on in the bedroom? And the grandmother said, nothing. And the kid said, oh, come on. I'm old enough. You can tell me. And the grandmother said, nothing. That is such a good answer.
Wow.
It's the only correct answer. What happens when a husband and wife go into a bedroom? Nothing. It's just them. Just the pleasure of them. But when you talk about how was it? How was it? A human being is not an object. And in the bedroom, there was no it. There was just two. Them. There was no third.
It was really one. They became one.
They became one because they wouldn't allow anything to come between them. So intimacy means the ability to rise above all things and make contact with the person themselves.
Wow.
The person.
You know, that is so different than what society tells us it should be.
Another
So here's
position, another this, another
Right.
that.
So here's
Right.
here's-
Read more books.
So here's the consequence. Two human beings engaging in sex diminish themselves. They lose a little respect for themselves. They lose a little respect for each other. It always happens. It's the nature of the activity. On the other hand, when two people achieve intimacy, which is not easy, and even the best couples don't always get there in the bedroom, but when they do achieve intimacy, they feel more innocent than before. They're not diminished at all. On the contrary, because in order to get past all things and connect to each other, just for having each other, that's like Adam and Eve before they ate from the tree. It's the holiest human beings can get without doing an actual mitzvah.
You know, I think it's amazing that that after the wedding ceremony, what we do is we go into a private room. The bride and groom, they go into a private room. Nothing happens there, but they're just alone. It's exclusivity. I got so many questions for you. I don't know how I'm going to cram it into 4 minutes. Is this only a Jewish thing? Are Gentiles able to have this too?
Recently, the mental health field experts are admitting that they made a terrible mistake by putting so much emphasis on sex and pleasure, when in fact, what people need is closeness, not more pleasure.
Oh my God, this is.
But we're going a step further.
Mind-blowing.
Closeness is not enough. You can be close to anybody. Not close. One, the ultimate closeness, the inseparable clseness. That's intimacy.
Intimacy. So intimacy is not a thing. It's not anything you can identify. It's not a friendship, because I'm friendly with
doesn't
many.
feel like you could define it.
Right, and this is what we really need to get into, because January 15th, what we're going to be talking about. The theme is the theme of the evening is how to stop having sex and start making love. That's the theme of January 15th, Friday night's event, and Saturday night is the candlelit soiree with the lost key to intimacy and sexuality. Your bedroom is your castle. This is going to be something which you cannot discover with reading one page or listening to a 3-minute, 5-minute sermon, and then you're good to go. This is going to take the month of January for us to assimilate, which is why we have the radio show here this morning, Shmooze, to just tease the topic.
I wish we had 2 hours. Probably a full day wouldn't cover all that you have to offer.
Well, next Saturday night,
how eye-opening this was.
It's really eye-opening, and at least what we've learned today is that there's a major omission in our relationships, a major lacking something. I've got so many questions which you obviously don't have time for. For example, why is intimacy only in the bedroom? How do you find intimacy? I guess that's the theme of the movie, which is the lost key to intimacy being screened at the Chabad this Saturday night.
I have so many questions, but we're going to have to cover this when he meets with us. And I just want to make sure, Rabbi, maybe you can explain to our listeners, if they've missed a part of this show, how they can still listen to it.
Well, you can listen to the show on iTunes. Just go to iTunes and look up Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens. That's CHABAD, Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens, where in a couple days, as soon as Apple approves the show, they'll be able to upload it to iTunes. That's Chabad of Palm Beach Gardens on iTunes. You can also listen to it it will also be uploaded at jewishgardens.com on the website. But more information is available at www.jewishgardens.com. Thank you, Rabbi Friedman. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. Closing statement?
We should all be blessed with real, true intimacy.
Amen.
Amen. What a way to end it. Let's take it away over the top. Thank you so much, Rabbi Friedman, with the hopes and aspirations and prayers to uplift our marriages. Palm Beach Gardens is never going to be the same again. Tada. Thank you very much.
To advertise your business on 900 AM, the talk of the Palm Beaches, call 561-627-9966 today.